everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Star Citizen. This video is featured by Ternonicus, who is an Elder Mombini and an admin of our Discord server. Big thank you, by the way. On top of that, he loves Star Citizen as much as I do, and so we wanted to try Stormbreaker together. Later on, his brother will join us too, and well, you will see. Ternonicus owns a Polaris, which is a crazy big ship. In fact, it's so big I even got lost a couple of times. Which I won't even show because it was nothing but embarrassing. But even more, we don't have time for this because too many things happened. Our captain guided us to the main turret of the ship because we wanted to get rid of the air defense of the landing area. Well, the quantum jump was pretty buggy from our view. So we start with our approach to a Pharaoh data center on Pyro 4. The Polaris can tank many hits, so enough time for us to get rid of the turrets. We destroyed each of them and landed nearby the building. The Polaris also offers a medical bay, which is very useful because you can set your respawn there, and especially for those kind of missions, you're back in action in no time. This freaking ship is so big, even the elevator takes forever to get down. But honestly, I will skip the most of this part. Because we saw this facility in my first 2 solo attempts anyway. Even more though, there's so much still to come, so we won't waste our time with this one. So we got the keycard and got out of there. We left the building with surprisingly less resistance. And treated our injuries in the medical bay. I like the Polaris, even though it's a little bit too big for me. But for those kind of missions, it's amazing to have. Finally, we entered phase 2 of this mission, which takes part at one of the Lazarus transport hubs on Pyro 1. I can't tell you how excited I was at this point. We finally entered the radioactive storms of Pyro 1. We didn't read much about it, but we knew that the storm can damage your ship. We didn't know how or why or when, so both of us didn't really knew what to expect. There were no enemy turrets around, therefore we just landed. I was checking my gear before we left the ship, when suddenly honestly, we have no idea what happened. The ship was already on the ground and we can just speculate. 1 week later, Ternonicus picked us up again and we gave it another try. We still didn't know what happened the week before. Could have been another player, but that's rather unlikely. Because you need a torpedo to one-shot the Polaris and yeah, I don't know. Could have been a bug, or maybe we just parked at the wrong place, which you will see later on. But again, we don't really know until this day. Maybe you have an answer. We got the keycard at the Faro data center again. A short message to Ternonicus. I would say what happens in Faro data center stays in Faro data center. I like that outfit. That's from the guard from Hurston Dynamics. And as I said in the race for Stanton, I like their colors or style. We were back on Pyro 1 and this time our ship didn't explode. I really like the design of Pyro 1. Even though it can get very dark, as you will see. By now we were lucky though and had pretty clear weather. There were a few enemies around, nothing crazy though. We searched the building, but also nothing crazy. And then a shuttle arrived. So we hopped in and headed into the dark. By the way, do you see the towers we passed with the shuttle here? That could be another reason why our ship exploded. Because Ternonicus parked nearby such a tower. So it could have been that a shuttle have passed by and rammed our ship and destroyed it immediately. Because this kind of shuttles are unbreakable and probably can one-hit the Polaris. But again, we still don't know for sure. We arrived at our final destination and the atmosphere is amazing. It's breathtaking. Even though it's dark and you can barely see outside. But the immersion is stunning. I'm not quite sure, but I think that was friendly fire. I'm sorry. Another problem we had was the radioactivity. We had to get a hazard chute or somewhere into the building. Because on the long run we would take damage from the radiation. I didn't expect this creature at all and was happily surprised to see them involved. We made it into the building and there is even a medical bay. But we couldn't set our respawn there. Then we found the office of Dr. Logan, but we needed a code. So we kept that in mind and moved on.
This facility is not currently in operation. Unauthorized access is strictly forbidden.
The structure of the building itself is pretty much like the Faro data centers on Pyro 4. The design of the rooms look very different though. And once again I really like it. I just love the atmosphere in this game. In this facility we need a hazard suit to enter some rooms, so we grabbed one from one of the many dead guards around. But right after I changed clothes, this happened. Even worse though, Ternonicus was stuck and couldn't heal me. So we respawned on the Polaris. Hopped in the shuttle and went back. Just to die immediately again. So we respawned in the Polaris again. And also went back again. This time we approached more carefully. We made it into the building and fought our way back to Ternonicus. I guess we had to kill 20 guards or so. But anyway, we made it back to Ternonicus, who was still stuck.
This facility is not currently in operation. Unauthorized access is strictly forbidden.
I tried to close the door, but it didn't help much. After a while we decided that the only chance of him getting out could be to kill him, grab his body and reanimate him right after. Our med gun was in the leg armor, which we dropped for the hazard suit, so we had to grab his first. We killed him softly with a shotgun, which caused him to bleed to death. Unfortunately, I couldn't grab the body though. So I wanted to reanimate him, hoping that his body will glitch out as soon as he gets up again. Which kind of worked, but he glitched out in the open space. In fact, he was falling through the planet. And with him the keycard. Which was a problem, because even if he could respawn on the Polaris again, the keycard was gone. So he called it a day and we decided to give it another try the following week. But we were still alive and so I decided to explore the building a little more. We found some powerful weapons which are probably there for the endgame of this mission. We even entered the main room we were looking for.
Access granted.
Got some tips for the endgame.
This facility is not currently in operation. Unauthorized access is strictly forbidden.
And stand in front of the egg, which was one of the main reasons we were here. Unfortunately though, we need the keycard to get it out. And soon after I died. Another week later we tried again, and this time we were joined by Ternonicus' brother Nick. Somehow our character was drunk though, because we kept slipping and falling on our butt over and over. I don't know, it might have been the wind, but I felt like I shouldn't have drank the bottle of whiskey before. Nick bought his own ship, the Gladius, which fits into the Polaris. Unfortunately though, it exploded when he tried to leave the hangar, before we reached the pyro gate. Ternonicus said something like it was his own fault because he didn't wait until he stopped the ship, but I don't know these mechanics by now, to be honest. Anyway though, he respawned in the Polaris and we continued our journey. We arrived at Pyro 4, but you know, it's Star Citizen. The elevator bugged into the floor, which wasn't a problem at first, because all of us got out. But when Ternonicus tried to close the ship, or much more elevate the elevator again, well, he decided to have a closer look at the inside of the planet. Or in other words, he glitched through the world again. So he also spawned in the Polaris, and soon after we got the keycard of the Faro data center. I don't know if the amount of guard spawning is depending on the amount of players, but this time was a lot more resistance. Especially after we left the building. We made it back though and decided to have a stop at the space station, because both of them lost all their inventory when they respawned. On our way back to the ship, Nick decided to not care about gravity anymore. I love such silly bugs. Back at the ship, Ternonicus had a little surprise for us in the mess hall. I also love these vets. even though we had a lot of trouble because of such a rat on that station. Back at Pyro 1 we had a very special plan. Ternonicus trusted the shields of his ship that much that he decided to follow us. So Nick and I hopped into the shuttle and he followed our names into the darkness. So we might have had a ship for the endgame. At least that was the plan. The shuttles are much faster than the Polaris, and so he fell back. Even worse, about half the way, or much more 6 kilometers away from us, the Polaris was down. We were still able to respawn in there, but we couldn't fly or do anything else with it anymore. We made it into the building, but as I said, Ternonicus' ship was down. He had the keycard and he tried to get to us by foot. Ternonicus was still on the way, but because of the radiation he was afraid that he won't make it. So his brother did what every good brother will do. He grabbed himself a hazard suit and wanted to rescue him. In fact, he wanted to rescue the keycard, but who cares about details? We had to kill a couple of more enemies and then he left. Thanks to Discord we still were in contact, but I felt pretty lonely there. Ternonicus was dead meanwhile and his brother died soon after. We admitted defeat and wanted to try it again another time. I was still alive though and didn't want to give up that quickly. So I wanted to try if we can find their bodies with the Atlas system. Because somehow I was hoping that we have a little protection inside the Atlas. Well, you aren't really inside an Atlas, therefore the hope was also little. But you never know if you don't try, right? Before we left, we killed some more guards. Who tanked surprisingly much hits. But then the game crashed. Well, and because the game crashed, we couldn't even see the Polaris anymore. I knew the rough direction in my mind, but my hope faded away. Yet we had to try. We didn't see much though, and our temperature went up like crazy. After a couple of minutes, we died to overheating, I guess. Anyway though, it was a lot of fun to try, and big thank you to Ternonicus and his brother Nick. I can't wait to try it again and to show you hopefully our success in the next episode. Your Mombi.